This video is sponsored by Babbel. August 7th, 2021, 9:55 AM. The moment my channel reached 100,000 subscribers. The moment I thought would never come, but it happened, and I remember watching that number tick over the magic threshold as clear as day. I was there with my wife. She congratulated me and said that we should celebrate. A few days later, I got verified, and that fancy little check mark appeared next to my channel name, letting everyone know that people watch my stuff. A couple months afterwards, I received my silver play button, the award that YouTube gives out to creators for achieving 100,000 subscribers. My in-laws took me, my wife, and a couple of friends out to a nice restaurant to celebrate. They asked me to bring the award with me, which I felt kind of stupid having it on display, but I kept it in its box and on the seat next to me so it didn't get too much attention. I started out making YouTube videos as a hobby. I just quit my job after moving back to Charlotte, North Carolina, and didn't really know what to do next. So I thought, hey, you like watching video essays, I like talking about media and social issues, and I have a degree in TV production, so why not make a go for it? I started out making videos analyzing shows and movies that I thought were worth talking about, and I had a lot of fun doing it. My good friend Karashu, who works in the VFX industry, even lended me a hand in making some amazing graphics to add to the production value, something which I could never thank him enough for. I was pretty green back then, and I hadn't worked on my voice yet. I tended to sound like an audible sleeping pill, but I learned as I went along and had a lot of fun doing so. My views were garbage. I'd barely get 100 views on each videos, and on the rare occasion I'd get like 1,000 or so, but it was what it was. I even managed to get my first copyright strike when I made a video defending the last 2 episodes of Neon Genesis Evangelion, and despite only having 141 views and abiding by fair use laws, Studio Kara felt it was necessary to manually take it down. That means that someone at the studio saw the video and felt that it was going a bit too far. I look back on those days fondly because I could basically do whatever I wanted, so long as I didn't break YouTube's rules. I wasn't beholden to the algorithm or an audience. I didn't have to worry about taking too long between videos. I felt free. One day though, things changed. I woke up one morning and saw hundreds of notifications on my phone for comments on a video that I made called Talent Belongs to the Beautiful, where I look at how people find it hard to perceive ugly people as talented because of media conditioning. Turns out that the algorithm all of a sudden decided to bless me with views, and throughout the next few days I watched the view count go from tens of thousands to over 100,000 and beyond. And the comments came flooding in with praise, people having discussions, asking how it's possible that my channel doesn't have more subscribers and so forth. I even got angry commenters who were upset at me saying that women have to live up to higher standards than men, and those that didn't appreciate me saying that Lindsay Sterling sucks, which, to be clear, she still does.
So this one is David, and if you can't tell, it's David Bowie because it's a bow.
Ugh. Shortly after that, another video that I released prior to this started taking off, a one-off documentary and long-term passion project I made called Under Neon Loneliness, a video about the loneliness epidemic in Japan, which has been caused by the clash of Japanese culture and late-stage capitalism. I spent over 6 months making this video, pretty much entirely by myself, with the exception of my friend Karashu making the graphics. It required an intense amount of research, scouring for footage, talking to people, finding translations, etc. I had always wanted to really dive into the subject that I found so fascinating, so I wanted to do it justice. And more than anything, I wanted to make sure that I didn't come across as an ignorant Westerner who's misinformed about another country's culture. To this date, it's the video I am most proud of, and my most successful video. When it first came out, it got less than 2,000 views, so I was pretty heartbroken given the amount of effort that I put into it. But after the success of Talent Belongs to the Beautiful, the video caught on like wildfire, receiving thousands of views almost every hour of the day, and I was just in awe that so many people loved this thing that I poured my heart and soul into. It was undeniably validating and made me feel like I could really do this. Eventually, YouTube decided that it wasn't ad friendly, so they decided to stall its momentum entirely. Despite being as delicate as possible when discussing mental health, they felt that talking about Aokigahara, the forest in Japan where people infamously go to end their life, wasn't something that advertisers would like to associate with. So it went from getting thousands of views per hour to just tens of views per hour. Just like that. It was on its way to becoming my first video that would reach over 1 million views, and maybe it will one day, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Also, another YouTube channel, Paolo from Tokyo, found that I used footage from his videos in mine. I made sure they were fair use, no clips longer than 7 seconds, no audio used, completely transformative, but despite that, it didn't matter. I tried to appeal it, but they said no. I tried again, another no. I asked YouTube and they wouldn't intervene, and they said that my only option at this point would be litigation. But like most small creators, I can't afford to enter a legal battle with a channel with millions of subscribers, so from there on out, any revenue that I would earn from that video that I made would go straight to Paolo, despite using less than 1 minute of his footage throughout a video that's nearly an hour long, some of which included graphics that I made, so technically he was copyright claiming imagery that I created. However, despite all that, this newfound attention made this all feel real, and what was once a hobby created out of boredom and a lack of direction became an opportunity for a legitimate career where I could talk about things that I find genuinely interesting, work for myself, not have to work for a boss I hate, or have to drive out to a workplace every morning and waste hours of my life at a job only doing it for a paycheck. I had always wanted to do something like this, and now it was becoming real. The views kept coming in with each new video, the subscriber count grew, I started getting supporters on Patreon, and sponsors were interested in me. I even got people asking for merch, which, if I'm perfectly honest, I have no idea what the hell that would be, and it's probably never going to happen. I still find it hard to believe that I reached this point. It feels nothing short of a miracle. Over time, I have learned that this level of YouTube, of content creating, is an agonizing battle to maintain viewers and appeal to an all-powerful algorithm. A thing which no one truly understands. It requires guessing what a robot wants, which in turn is guessing what people want. It almost sounds like the plot from some horrible dystopian sci-fi novel, but it's very, very real. And trying to figure out what it wants dominates almost every waking hour of content creators such as myself, and many others on a similar level. I've begun to feel very insecure in my work, my emotional state, and in my financial future. YouTube simply does not pay out enough unless you fill your videos with ads. Sponsors can often be stingy, and it can be hard to convince people to part ways with their hard-earned cash just to support a smaller creator. There's a constant fear of videos being copyright claimed or being demonetized for content that isn't ad-friendly, something which YouTube refuse to properly define or even tell you what the issue is when your video is flagged. When a creator reaches 100,000 subs, it's easy to think that they've made it, and that from here on out it's just going to be smooth sailing. Even YouTube sort of implies it by sending you that silver play button, but it really couldn't be further from the truth. This button hangs by the side of my desk where I get to see it every day, and what was once a symbol of success, of doing something right and achieving something that millions of other video makers can only dream of, has turned into a grim reminder that it could all fall apart at any second. And what a person might believe is the beginning of something amazing can ultimately just be a fleeting moment in the sun before crashing down to earth due to an inability to cater to the unknown. This job has become possibly the most stressful experience in my life and the life of many, many other creators. It has negatively impacted my health, both physical and mental, and my self-worth as well. The unfortunate thing is that most creators at this level don't like to talk about it out of fear of seeming ungrateful of their audience or their success. But today, I really want to tell you that that is absolutely not the case. And I think it's worth discussing with you, the audience, about why being a low-level YouTuber can feel like hell. I've done a bit of traveling in my time, and one of the worst things about going to a country where people mostly don't speak English is being ill-equipped to communicate with locals. If you're British, like I unfortunately am, you'll also probably be aware of how embarrassing it is to see a fellow Brit who thinks that pointing at something while shouting at loud volumes will magically make non-English speakers understand them. 2 beers, please! Learning a new language can seem daunting, but thanks to Babbel, it doesn't have to be. Babbel's goal is to teach you real-world practical conversation skills that can be applied in numerous ways, whether that's travel, business, or even for relationships. They structure their courses in easy-to-digest 10-minute lessons designed by real language teachers, human beings, and not just some machine learning algorithm or AI. They use award-winning technology, including Babbel's speech recognition, to help you improve your pronunciation and accent, and has been scientifically proven to get you speaking a good amount of another language in only 3 weeks. They offer all kinds of ways to learn too, including podcasts, games, and videos. I studied French back in high school, but kind of got distracted by being a teenager, I guess. So I decided to pick it up again using Babbel, and not only am I remembering a bunch of stuff that I thought I forgot, I'm learning plenty of new things too. So if I ever go back to Paris, I can ask if they can remove my lifetime ban from the Christian Louboutin store. I only asked if they had any shoes that didn't have red soles. Babbel has loads of different language courses to choose from, so if you've been wanting to learn a new one, I highly recommend that you give it a try. If you visit my link in the description, you'll get a very generous 65% off on your subscription, and if for some reason you change your mind, they have a 20-day money-back guarantee. Apprendre de nouvelles langues avec Babbel. Since around December of last year, I've started to experience some health problems. It started around the holidays, where I started feeling some intense pressure around my sinuses and my ears began ringing constantly. I went to see my doctor and an ENT specialist about it, and neither could really tell what it might be, and there were no signs of infection or anything like that. The ENT said that it might have been a bug, but after talking with them a bit about work and all the other stuff in my life, they both came to the conclusion that the symptoms are more than likely being induced by stress. I've had stress-related symptoms before. When I was moving to America, I had extreme pain in my jaw due to clenching while sleeping, but what I was experiencing now was almost constant, and nothing could really be done to relieve it. I've gotten stress from this job before, but this was the first time that it started affecting my physical health. And since then, some symptoms have gone away, some have stayed, new ones have materialized, all sorts. One consistent one has been stress headaches, where I feel tingling and pressure around my temples and forehead, something which I know is being caused by the stress of work because whenever I take a break between videos, they suddenly disappear. I've been trying to take action to alleviate stress. I'm fortunate enough to have a therapist to speak to regularly and a psychiatrist who is working with me to find out what medications work for me, but it's a long-term process and there's no immediate solution, or at least there hasn't been anything to offer significant relief to make things easier. Now, I don't want to make this whole video about how working as a YouTuber is making me ill, but I wanted to get it out of the way to illustrate that behind the scenes, the stress of this job takes its toll on me and many others at a similar level. In fact, I've spoken with other creators who have had other health problems that have arisen from job stress. Obviously, a lot of people experience stress from work. There are tons of strenuous professions out there that can test the limits of any human being. So please don't think that I'm saying that I have it harder than other people or anything like that. What I'm getting at is that there are a lot of people out there that think that this is an easy, low-stress job where you just come up with an idea, write a script, shoot, edit, post, and enjoy the waves of validation that come from seeing your view count rise and reading comments from strangers on the internet praising you. That stuff is nice, don't get me wrong, especially for someone like me who finds it difficult to accept praise from loved ones, believing that it's disingenuous because they don't want to hurt your feelings. As you can tell, I need a therapist regardless of doing this job. Like I said earlier, once a creator reaches that 100,000 subscriber milestone, a lot of people think that growth is automatic from that point on, but unfortunately, this simply isn't true. It's a constant struggle to appeal to your current audience while trying to find the best way to make content that interests new viewers as well, and hopefully make it so your videos appear in the recommended section of people who have never even heard of you. Beyond that, there's the difficulty of convincing people to support you financially outside of YouTube, whether that be through sponsors, Patreon, or one-time donations. Because even if you're making videos that bring in around 100,000 to 200,000 views each, and you can only release one every month or so, you will absolutely not be earning enough money to live on by YouTube revenue alone. And believe me when I say that money equates to poverty wages. I am not kidding. There are so many facets of being a content creator on YouTube that have to be considered almost constantly, and when you're a solo, low-level creator such as myself, all of those aspects are laid squarely on your shoulders, and there are few people you can consult to help you with it. So let's have a look at my process. I start out by coming out with an idea, no surprises there. This idea has to fulfill numerous criteria though. Not only does it have to be interesting enough to convince my current audience to keep watching, but like I said earlier, it has to reach new people too. Not only does the idea need to be interesting, but it hopefully has to be unique. Otherwise, you'll get people complaining about it or saying that another creator, usually one with far more money and resources at their disposal, did it better. Like, I actually once planned on making a video talking about NFTs, but after Dan Olsen from Folding Ideas released his video and it started getting an unholy amount of views, it had to be taken off the table. Sometimes you have to pick a video idea that you simply don't find interesting personally, but it's something that people are talking about and therefore will get more attention. I will hold my hands up and admit there are some videos I've made where, even though I was able to form an opinion around them and try to make it interesting, I personally didn't find it all too interesting, and I would have much rather spoken about something else. Just like any other job, finding satisfaction in what you do isn't always possible. Even though I love making videos, I have to compromise with the audience and the algorithm, which means putting the stuff that I really want to talk about on the back burner, in hopes that someday I'll have a consistent audience that watches my stuff, regardless of whether they're aware of the subject. I say this because I've been stung on multiple occasions when it comes to talking about the things that I find genuinely interesting. For example, my video on how our obsession with nostalgia is a sign of how we've lost faith in the future. I really love talking about that, but evidently it wasn't something that my audience really wanted, even with what I assumed was a catchy title. I would love nothing more than to be able to do something like a 2-hour analysis on what Nier Automata has to say about finding meaning in the meaningless, or a reading on how Disco Elysium asks whether ideas are worth fighting for in a world where the powerful will retaliate violently, or a 4-hour deep dive on which Final Fantasy XIV characters are tops and bottoms. Oh, and just to give you a taste, if you're wondering, Xenos' entire story arc is about him figuring out that he's a bottom. Oh, and Sadu is the biggest top in the game, no question about it. When you have a smaller audience, you have to pander to the algorithm and stick with your niche. There's simply no way around it. Larger channels, on the other hand, have far greater freedom when it comes to this, and have little to no fear of backlash of losing viewers. Take for example, H-Bomber. He can release 1 or 2 lengthy videos a year, talking about whatever the hell he wants. One moment he's talking about the supposed war on Christmas, and the next he's talking about an 11-year-old video game, and he's almost guaranteed to get 1 million views within the first week of release. He doesn't have to publish numerous videos throughout the year to remind the algorithm and his audience that he still exists. He doesn't have to do the whole like and subscribe shtick. He and creators like him have essentially transcended beyond YouTube's algorithm. And not only does he not have to worry about audience drop-off or retention or regular releases like a smaller creator does, he doesn't have to worry too much about finances either, due to his very healthy support on Patreon. Many larger creators like H-Bomber in the so-called Breadtube sphere earn well over 5 figures a month through Patreon alone. They don't disclose exactly how much they earn, I don't know why, but I think it's fair to extrapolate that amount. They are able to maintain a living alongside having significantly higher production value in their videos, even going as far as to be able to hire production staff and researchers. Supporters may do this because they want to help maintain that growth and consistency, and that's fine, but there's an argument to be made that it's cannibalizing the growth of smaller channels, whether they intend to or not. You could also argue that since they're self-employed, much of their income goes towards taxes, and that they have various other production expenditures, but I think that's just splitting hairs, to be honest with you. If a YouTuber can afford to hire staff, I think it's fair to say that they are earning a considerable amount of money. I'm not saying that larger creators don't have their stresses. They have a lot on their plate and they do produce some incredibly well-made videos, but they are afforded the freedoms that lower levels of YouTube simply don't have. Creators at my level don't have much choice in what they talk about. They don't have the finances to hire people to help out. They have to worry about videos being demonetized and not being able to contest bogus copyright claims. But what I'd argue is the greatest constraint of them all is time. Like I said, this isn't a concern for most larger creators in this field. They can spend months working on a video with multiple people about anything they want and not have to worry about not getting views when they finally publish. They don't have to worry about what the best day to publish is, or even the best time window. They sometimes don't even have to worry about having to make a nice thumbnail or even a catchy title. Maintaining and growing an audience as a lower level creator on YouTube means creating and releasing well-made content with a tiny budget as frequently as possible so the algorithm doesn't forget about you, and in most cases this has to be done entirely by one person. I would really love nothing more than to be able to hire an editor just to alleviate a bit of the stress of doing this job, but I'm not kidding when I say that because of the inconsistency in income from YouTube, you can literally lose money by hiring someone if a video doesn't do well enough, or if it gets demonetized. And if, like me, all you can handle is one video a month, that's a lot of risk. In general, I'd really love to be able to increase my production value overall, get a nicer camera with a better lens, have more interesting backdrops to shoot on, take some time to learn more about After Effects, maybe even get voice lessons and so forth, but constraints of time and finances simply do not allow for it. This especially stings when you have commenters saying how I should buy a $300 Adobe Audition de-esser plugin just because my sibilances are too loud, or get a $1,000 shotgun microphone just because they don't like seeing my condenser mic in the shot, or how I should get voice lessons, etc. I'd like to be able to do these things, why wouldn't I? anyone who makes anything wants to be better at it. I think I've improved over time, and I make do with what I have at my disposal. But to hear from people who, might I add, aren't even patrons, saying that I should spend a bunch of my limited income just because they don't like looking at my microphone is kind of insulting. It shows a profound lack of understanding as to what it's like trying to run a channel with the tiniest of resources, and it just makes you feel like all that effort that you're already putting into making a video isn't good enough. We can't all afford to buy or even rent out a $36,000 Arri Alexa Mini, you know. I'll tell you what, to any of those people out there, if you're feeling generous and your wallet's feeling a little bit too heavy, then here's my Amazon wishlist with a bunch of stuff that I could really use. My monitor doesn't have the best colors, so this one will be really nice. Here's a SSD, which is really fast. It will make editing much easier. And here's the shotgun mic that someone recommended to me once. So yeah, if you're feeling generous, then why not help me out? I'm kidding, please do not buy me anything. I do not know how to respond to generosity. If we're going to talk about revenue, we have to look at how YouTube's copyright system is an absolute mess that only favors movie and TV studios, music labels, and larger content creators. I mentioned at the beginning that I had my first run-in with copyright issues fairly early into doing this job. I've had numerous copyright claims, a copyright strike, I've appealed all of these, and they have always failed. So, in the US, under the Copyright Act, there's something that you've probably heard of called fair use law, which says that people are allowed to use portions of copyrighted work without permission from the owner. So, brief snippets of movies, shows, music, literature, etc. are fine to use, especially if it's transformative, i.e. if you're not trying to recreate the original product as a whole. So if I show like a 6-second clip of Our Flag Means Death, completely out of context with no audio, that's within the realm of fair use. Also, go watch Our Flag Means Death, it's really good. It needs a second season now. However, the problem with fair use law is that it is a poorly defined grey area, because under Title 17 of the US Code gives copyright owners the right to limit how people use their creative work, meaning that if you are within the realm of fair use, even if you use a second of someone's work, the owner can still deny usage. At this point, the only option left to resolve this is litigation, and understandably, not many people can afford to take giant media companies out to court. If you've spent some time on YouTube, you'll probably already know how being demonetized is a huge issue for a lot of content creators. I was aware before I started making videos, but only after I started doing this did I learn about how much of an unmitigated, imbalanced mess it can be. Let me put it this way. If I found that someone used a clip of my videos, like this video, by FD Signifier, where I appear for a couple seconds near the beginning. If I wanted to, I could put a copyright claim on his video, saying that he used my footage without my permission. As a result of that, the entirety of that video would be claimed, and any revenue that it earns would go directly to me, even though my footage accounts for only a moment of the full runtime. FD could then send an appeal to remove the claim, which goes directly to me. He could explain that it's under fair use, how it's transformative, all of that stuff. But I could simply decide, nah, I'm just going to claim it anyway, and continue taking his revenue. FD could appeal it again, but I can say no again. And unless he's willing to take me to court, he has no other option than to just leave it be, and let me take all his money for his hard work. He can clip out the couple of seconds that I'm in the video, which could be fine, but if it were a case where I appeared throughout it numerous times, he'd have to clip out numerous parts to get rid of the claim, while turning the video into a weird, confusing edit. So yeah, I'll see you in court, FD. Hope you got a good lawyer. I'm kidding, I didn't claim his video. You might be asking, what does YouTube do to help in these situations? And the answer is absolutely nothing. YouTube doesn't serve as a mediator. They don't help the person whose work has been claimed or the person that's making the claim. But ultimately, all the power is in the hands of the latter, and unless you can convince someone to give up on all of the potential money that they can earn from another person's video, to be honest, you're shit out of luck. There are even companies which larger creators hire which exist purely to go around copyright claiming videos that use even the slightest amount of their work to supposedly protect their intellectual property. Like I said earlier, a company called Superbam represents Paolo from Tokyo's channel, but he's just one of the handful of huge channels that they work for. They also go around claiming videos for Donut Media, Danny Casale, and The Game Theorist with MatPat, a man with all the appeal of a Ziploc bag filled with expired mayonnaise. I've never had a chance to say this publicly, and I've always wanted to, so allow me to say, f*** you, Paolo, and f*** your videos, which sugarcoats Japanese work culture, which is literally killing people. Oh, while I'm at it, f*** you, Superbam. You're all parasites and you represent everything wrong with YouTube. Welcome to the Boost Bus, the segment in each video where I take a moment to promote the work of other content creators and artists who could use your help to grow and become more visible. Sorry for not being on camera, I usually record these segments at the end, but as you'll see during the outro of the video, my camera's battery decided that it's had enough of me. This time I'd like to promote the work of Mandy, aka Mainly Mandy. Mandy is a lifelong resident of Maine, hence the name, and a video essayist. She discusses a variety of topics, primarily around the subject of non-monogamy, along with things such as body image, women choosing to be child-free, and the internal and external politics of polygamy. Mandy started making videos during the pandemic, and she has quite the talent for it. Her work is thorough and well-researched, all while being entertaining. She's a gifted speaker, and I've enjoyed what I've seen by her. I believe Mandy has a bright future making video essays, so why not help her out by visiting her channel, checking out her videos, and of course subscribing. She also has a Patreon if you want to help support her further, and you can follow her on Twitter at Mainly Mandy. A little bit of help goes a very long way for small creators, so lend her a hand. The links to her channel and the rest of her stuff are in the description. If you'd like a ride on a Boost Bus, then feel free to send me an email at salarivideo@gmail.com with the subject Boost. Please include a short bio about yourself and your work, along with any relevant links, including socials and sites. If you work as something like an artist, then please be sure to include high-quality samples of your work to be showcased in the video. I won't be able to reply to your emails due to the volume, but rest assured they are all being read. YouTube loves to claim that it wants to help smaller creators grow by giving them advice and tools to do so, but it's complete bullshit. YouTube only cares about its larger creators because they bring in way more money for the site than anyone else, and as a result, they can get away with way more than smaller creators. These absolutely huge channels are watched mostly by minors, yet despite YouTube's desire to ensure that the site remains family friendly, they're more than fine with allowing these channels to post overtly sexually suggestive content, both in their videos and their thumbnail, because they know that ultimately it means more views. Kids are going to click on that stuff. If a smaller creator was to do the same, you better believe that they can't get away with it. The amount of things that you have to tiptoe around as a smaller creator to avoid being demonetized or having the algorithm bury your video is absurd. YouTube tends to go easier on swearing these days to a certain extent, but there are hundreds, if not thousands of words that you cannot say at all without paying for it. If you've watched some of my previous videos, you know that I've spoken a lot about mental health issues, and it's inevitably resulted in talking about people taking their own life. A term that I adopt regularly because YouTube doesn't like people using that other word that begins with S. Even on the content warnings at the beginning of some videos, I've had to censor the word because they can detect words on screen along with various other imagery. YouTube says that it's okay with discussions of sensitive topics so long as it's not done in a way that's harmful or derogatory, but in my and many other people's experience, context does not matter at all. If YouTube's AI detects a word that it doesn't like, be it audible or visual, it'll prevent you from earning any revenue from it. Even when you send it in for a human review, they'll still take a similar tack to it. Thankfully, a few of my videos that were flagged were approved after human review, but that's still a couple of days waiting to publish, which can make the world of difference when it comes to retaining your audience's attention. The channel Nerd City, alongside some other creators, conducted an extensive experiment where they tested over 16,574 words in the titles of videos to see whether they would get demonetized. They found that 2,992 of those words were either possible or likely to prevent a video from earning any revenue. Some obvious, like swear words or bigoted language, but some far less obvious, like voter, apparent, full, invisible, or even Shrek, all resulted in them being demonetized. There is a lot of weird Shrek stuff out there though, so I don't know, maybe that's a good call. They and a variety of queer and trans creators also found that YouTube flagged videos that had terms like LGBTQ, gay, lesbian, or trans in the title, even when the content of said videos were an honest, sensitive, and serious look into LGBTQ issues and lifestyle, something which YouTube claimed was an error and have since allegedly corrected it, but it highlighted the serious flaws in which the ways YouTube regulates its platform. So I want to answer some questions that people might feel like asking after hearing all this, starting with, if this job is so awful, then why not just quit? Well, believe it or not, I actually really like this job, despite its stress. I like being able to talk about the things I find interesting, even when that means making a compromise and talking about things that I'm not too invested in personally. I like talking about these things with other people. Any of my friends will tell you that. But now I get to talk about it with an audience and encourage discussion, which is great. It's opened me up to harassment in various ways, but I've learned to not let it get to me. It also means that I'll occasionally get an email or Twitter DM from a stranger who wants to discuss with me at length about why men have it harder than women when it comes to beauty standards, which, once again, they don't. Please stop contacting me. But I find this rewarding, and I'd be lying if I said that I didn't get a big fat rush of serotonin whenever I see a spike in analytics. I'm only human, we all need validation. It can honestly be a bit insulting to suggest someone just quit a job just because they find it stressful, because even though it can be trying at the worst of times, it can still be fulfilling. Many doctors and nurses work ridiculous amounts of hours, and a lot of them absolutely love their job still, and the latter don't get paid anywhere near as much as they deserve. Even people like working artists express how much of a pain a job can be, especially when creating things that they don't find interesting, like commissions and such. But they do it because they want to make art and be recognized for it. I ultimately like this job, even though it's stressful and often the topic of most of my therapy sessions. I'll also say as well that I am very, very lucky that I am actually able to see a therapist and psychiatrist. My wife works in healthcare, and as a result, she actually has really good insurance. I live in America, therefore I have to use health insurance for these things. But if her health insurance wasn't anywhere near as good as what it is now, there is a good chance that that would be a very different situation. And there are plenty of YouTubers out there who work entirely on their own without a partner or anyone else in their life for support, who have to go out of pocket for their health insurance if they can afford it at all. So yeah, I'm fortunate in that respect, very fortunate. If the algorithm is a problem, why not just release shorter videos more often? Well, for starters, I like putting what time I can into a video. I try to release videos once a month, and within that time, I do what I can to make it as substantial as possible. As I also mentioned earlier, I work entirely by myself, and that's a significant workload for one person. Bear in mind that that means writing, research, shooting, editing audio, contacting sponsors, editing video, art research, etc. It's almost always done entirely just by me. Sometimes I'll have some assistance from a friend or my wife helps out, but as resources and help goes, it's very minimal. I also have my struggles with mental health, including depression and anxiety and ADHD, all of which can severely hinder my productivity at times, and because of the stress symptoms I've been experiencing recently, it means that I've had to dedicate even more of my time to try and minimize it. Also, I'm just so bad at making shorter videos. This video was supposed to be 15 minutes long. Why not release videos less often? Once again, YouTube punishes smaller creators who don't post often enough. If viewers aren't clicking on your videos regularly, the higher the likelihood that your next video won't appear in their recommended feed. Which, not to be dramatic or anything, can mean death for your channel. I would love nothing more than to take a few months between videos so I can make them as in-depth and well-produced as possible, while being able to take some time for myself. But at this level, it simply is not an option. If you want more exposure, why not reach out to other creators? Easier said than done. Believe it or not, Breadtube isn't the most tightly knit community, and it can be very awkward asking others to promote you, especially when they're in a similar situation as you as well. We could be doing more to help each other out, but I'll get to that in a moment. Why not just make what you want and see how it goes? It's not that simple. I've learned multiple times now that the stuff that I want to talk about isn't always what YouTube or my audience wants to see. I made a couple of videos about conservatives that did quite well, and I found them interesting enough to talk about, but I didn't want to make that my niche. Same thing with the videos I've done on influencers and social media. Making things that you find interesting still takes a lot of time and effort, and if it doesn't do well, it can feel like a waste. You can still be proud of it, and there's a chance that one day the algorithm might decide that people should see it, but when this is your job, there's too much risk attached. Why don't you just make better content? Lol. Why don't you go f***? So, what can be done to help smaller creators? Well, the answer is fairly simple. Support them. If you want them to grow, then you have to do the things that help them grow. Do all the engagement stuff, like, subscribe, comment, share it on social media, Reddit, wherever, because it all really matters. If you want to help even more, then I can't stress how much funding creators on other platforms like Patreon helps, or even one-time donations. YouTube revenue simply is too small and inconsistent, and it's made all the more worse when creators can get demonetized for seemingly no reason, or have their work copyright claimed by some parasite who thinks that they deserve all your revenue just because you use 5 seconds of their footage or music. Sites like Patreon are a godsend to creators. They can see exactly how much they can earn, it's stable, and it means that they don't have to worry about YouTube's bullshit as much, or trying to find a sponsor for their videos. So helping them out there in any way that you can is possibly the best way to help them grow, or at least remain stable. Lastly, and I may not make many friends from saying this, but creators need to help each other out more, because as things stand, it's nowhere near enough. You may occasionally see some videos that have collaborations with other creators, or maybe even an appearance by them, which can be a somewhat decent way of directing people towards them, but there is so much more that can be done, especially by larger channels. I follow various creators on Twitter, and I rarely, if ever, see them retweet or quote tweet other creators when they announce new video releases, and I truly don't understand why. If someone has a following of thousands or tens of thousands of people on Twitter, then the potential for one retweet to reach a much larger audience and possibly be seen on the feeds of other people with even larger followings who may also retweet it is staggeringly high, and all it takes is a couple of clicks. For free! The whole reason I include a section of each video where I boost another creator, whether that's an artist, video maker, musician, etc., is because boosts can be incredibly meaningful for them. It's a bit of extra effort required on my part, but I've known people in creative fields who've agonized for years trying to be recognized for their work. Truly brilliant people who have worked themselves to the bone for a shred of recognition, but have never been given a chance. It is so hard to see people struggling like that, So I do it because I can. I know that as things stand, appearing in one of my videos won't exactly change their fortunes, but it's something, and I genuinely think that other creators should be doing it too, especially the larger ones. I'm sure that if they open themselves up to promoting others, they will be inundated with requests. But like I said, they have people who work for them. I'm pretty sure that they can direct some of their resources into doing some research. The fact is, this stuff matters. If someone like ContraPoints were to do something as simple as retweeting a smaller creator's video, they could more than likely get thousands of new viewers and subscribers overnight. The bigger names in this field have an absurd amount of influence, but rarely use it to empower others. And this goes back to what I said earlier about the market being monopolized by larger creators. If the big channels and YouTube's algorithms spare no effort in directing people towards those who are in need of support and growth, then those at the top will remain on top, and those at the bottom will forever struggle. Thus, the status quo will remain intact. It's kind of ironic when you think about it that this Breadtube sphere in which creators discuss the ills of capitalism and inequality has in itself become a simulacrum of the so-called free market that we're subjected to in real life, where the rich stay rich and the poor stay poor. I'm sure some people who have a deeper parasocial relationship with these large creators might be tempted to jump to their defense and possibly claim that this is just jealousy speaking or whatever, but in doing so, all you would be doing is parroting the same sentiments of defenders of people like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, claiming that they earn their wealth, therefore they're entitled to it. The simple fact is that creators can do more to help elevate others. I know it's different for them compared to someone like me, but any effort is better than none. They are set for life when it comes to their audience and finances, so it's not much to ask that they use some of that to help out others. And to be clear, I'm not just talking about myself. I'm not asking for your pity. I'm sharing this with you because it's not spoken about enough, and I feel that audiences should be aware of the costs for making content at this level. Admittedly, I'm also talking about this for catharsis, but this is far greater than me. Similarly, with smaller creators, if we're to promote ideas of equality and fair distribution, then that should also involve ensuring that everyone's voice is heard equally and not ignored because those with the biggest platforms have the loudest volume. This especially rings true for creators from marginalized groups which are in dire need of support and recognition. After all, this should not be a competition when we all have the same goal. Thank you so much for watching. Obviously I already covered this at length, but if you wouldn't mind liking, commenting, and sharing this video, it is greatly appreciated and does go a very long way in helping smaller creators. I would also like to thank the other people that help support this channel too, the wonderful patrons that donate a small amount of money each month to help keep this channel going. As you can see, they're scrolling up here right now. They're all wonderful people and they keep the lights on around here, or at least these two lights that light up the videos. I'd also like to offer a special shout out to all of the patrons that donate $5 or more each month, and that goes out to Ryan Osterman, Henry the Longshot, King Me, Christian Moyer, Catherine Pendell, Praise Lord Gilgamesh, in a Borat voice, my wife, Nicholas McDonnell, Azil Crescent, Alicia Crawford, Rachel J. Stark, Maurice Robert, Candide, Dan McCrary, Daniel Perrone, Anna Marie Hanyasova, Freeman Killer, Lizzie Peasy, Grant B, Jay, Matthew Torres, Rage, Enrique Gutierrez, Mergerger Fashionable, Alina, Ratums, Games, Martina, Sanderpanda, CB Hart, Kevin Corber, Lillian Roan, Sharfay, Mickey Bonadonna, Sparrow Wagon, Marius Stubberud, Your Sweet Pea, Catherine, and Steve Marr. Thank you all so very much for helping out this channel. Like I said, it really does make a difference, and if you would like to join these people in helping out the channel, you can do so at patreon.com/Salari. Any amount goes a very long way. Also, I would like to say that I do really appreciate your support while I've been going through these difficult issues. It is really so nice to hear encouragement from people. It does help me keep going in times when I do genuinely feel like giving up on doing this. It's very touching, and yeah, thank you so much. It makes a difference. It really does. If you would like to okay, so my camera died in the middle of doing that, so I switched to my phone because I couldn't be bothered charging my camera for another hour just to do about 30 seconds more of video, so here we are. Anyway, thank you for your encouragement. It does really make a big difference and keeps me going. Thank you for watching once again. I appreciate you all. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and yeah, that's it. See you later. Trans Pride, motherfucker. Bye bye.